had an abortion, but I changed my mind. I know abortions are a rather sensitive subject and also private, and in no way is this video meant to cause shame or guilt to anyone who have had or will have one in the future. But if you, like me, regret your decision immediately after taking the mifepristone, also known as the abortion pill, I encourage you to seek information that there is hope. No one will pressure you or judge you. I did, and here's my story. I felt like this time of my life was a test of faith. I started my faith walk January 2017, and little did I know this would be the hardest test that I was to go through in my life. Choosing between my love of God and the love of my life. See, a part of me knew that if I was to carry out with my pregnancy, that it would cause turmoil in my relationship. But then on the other hand, if I was to carry on with the abortion, there would be a sense of unsettlement in my spirit. How I found out I was pregnant. So I knew something was off in my body's chemistry, so I immediately took a pregnancy test and it was positive. I told my boyfriend immediately, and we both were a little surprised because we took the day after pill. But obviously that failed. After doing some seeking information, I found out women who were overweight needed to take two day after pills for effectiveness. Why I chose an abortion. So a little background on me. I'm a single mom of a 6-year-old daughter, and although blessed, it hasn't been easy, not for her or myself. See, she seeks to have that relationship with her father, and I carry a lot of baggage on my shoulder, juggling many hats. This is why I promised myself my next child would be with my husband so that I didn't have to do it alone and not out of wedlock. And my boyfriend and I had a plan that before we had a child, we wanted to have stability in our relationship. This is why I took the day after pill in the first place, because the timing wasn't right. But while we're busy making plans, life happens. So we talked about it and we decided to have an abortion. It wasn't an easy decision to come to. Neither one of us honestly wanted to make the decision. We prayed continuously, asking God to give us an answer as if he was going to write it on a script of paper. But he didn't, so I went ahead and scheduled the appointment. Since we were unsure, neither one of us was ready for a family together. My first time scheduling the appointment, my boyfriend ended up sick that day, so I had to reschedule. And as if that wasn't a sign, I went on and rescheduled for a second time. The second time, I remember him picking me up from work, and the clinic was about a 30-minute drive from my job. During that whole car ride, I was just silent. He was silent also. I remember the night before, neither one of us could really sleep, but we didn't speak about it either. I remember as we were driving to the clinic, I just stared at the window, trying to hold back the tears. I wasn't sure why I was crying, but I couldn't stop the tears from falling. And then we pulled up to the clinic, and he turned and looked at me and said, "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" And I responded dryly, "Well, we're already here." At that point, I couldn't stop crying, and I remember him putting his hand on my stomach and saying that we can overcome together to schedule my prenatal appointment, and we left and went home. One night we were sitting watching a movie, and I turned to him and told him that I wasn't ready for a kid and that I was nervous, and he too agreed with me and said that we can plan for a child in a year. The reason why I was scared was because I knew he was being strong, but deep down he wasn't ready for a kid either, and a part of me was really nervous of doing it alone. So I went ahead and scheduled the third appointment. I remember the night before, I couldn't sleep again. but I already made up in my mind that I was going to go through with the appointment. So I mustered up enough courage on the way there so that I could make small talk so that I didn't cry. Once we arrived to the clinic, a part of me still didn't really want to go through with it, but the decision was made. The clinic staff tried to be spunky and lighten up the mood, which was rather odd to me because this wasn't a joyous situation for either one of us. Something in the clinic just didn't feel right. There were 3 other couples going through the same process as we were, so they spoke to us in a group setting, which was weird because this was a rather private matter. And although then my mentor called me and I stepped away to take the phone call. And I remember him just praying with me and telling me that if I seek forgiveness, God would forgive me. And then he mentioned that the baby in my stomach was a king, and that stuck with me. But there was a knock on the door and it was time for me to go because we were doing it in a group setting. I was holding up the group from carrying on. So I hung up and went there. Then the doctor explained how the abortion would take place, that we had a series of pills we had to take. The first pill, the abortion pill, the mifepristone, he explained would stop the life or the growth of the baby. And then he stated that, matter of factly, Nebraska has to say by law in Nebraska that this process can be reversed, but that's not true. Once you take this pill, there's no chance of reversing it. Then he went on to explain that I had to take, in the next 24 hours, a set of other pills that would cause me to bleed out as if I was having a period, and that there would be some cramping and heavy bleeding. So he gave some Tylenol to ease the pain. He also explained that if this process wasn't going to work, I would have to come back for the medical abortion, which is the DNC, because I was taking for the surgical abortion because I was taking the medical abortion. Then he instructed us to take the first pill right there in the clinic because he had to record the time. I remember looking at my boyfriend as if he was going to stop me and then swallowing the pill. After that, we got the rest of the pills and were dismissed, and I immediately ran out the clinic, unable to hold back the tears anymore. That night, when we got to the house, my daughter was there, so I had to muster up enough courage to stop crying because I didn't want her to see me like that or start asking questions until she went to bed. But after she went to bed, I could no longer hold back the tears. And all night, I remember crying. I didn't have much of an appetite, so I just laid around. Something wasn't right in my spirit. I remember as I was laying down, checking the time continuously on my phone, trying to count backwards so that I can fall asleep and stop crying, but nothing worked. And then my alarm went off and it was time to get up, but I had never fell asleep. I remember all night while I was crying, my boyfriend tried to hold me and console me and tell me that it was okay and that we would have a kid in the future, but that didn't put me at ease. That wasn't it. All night, I just kept rethinking about what the doctor said, that in the next 24 hours, I had to take more pills, basically forcing a miscarriage and bleeding and cramping out. It seemed traumatizing, but it was time to get ready for work. So a little background on me. At the sales company that I worked for, I was one of the top 3 producers. So when I say that day at work that I could not focus, that was unlike me. I recall playing over and over what I had to do in the next 24 hours, and then the doctor mentioning briefly about the process being reversed. Even though he said it wasn't possible, I decided to do a little research, and I found the abortion reversal hotline. And so I took 15, gave him a phone call. The hotline was friendly. The lady on the other end asked me a few questions and answered some of my questions. I told her when I had taken the pill, and I was a little skeptical due to the controversial information that I found online and also with the doctor said in the clinic, but I kind of figured at that point, what did I have to lose? The lady on the line at the hotline found me a clinic in my area, well, in Nebraska, and it happened to be in my area, which was 10 minutes from my job. So she scheduled me an appointment so that I can get more information on the reversal process. The clinic was called Sancta Familia Family Medicine Clinic, and so I took a lunch and went there. At Sancta Familia, when I arrived, it was a little creepy because there's a chapel in the front of the building, a Catholic chapel. But the ladies at the front desk were really friendly and welcoming, and immediately they got me back into a room so that I can see the doctor. I remember asking on the hotline line, and also when I arrived to the clinic about insurance or if they wanted it, and they didn't mention anything about payment, and still then they didn't mention anything. They just directed me to the room, which was a little weird because whenever you schedule a doctor appointment, that's usually the first thing that they mention is payment. Well, the nurse practitioner, Angelina, came into the room and she asked me some questions about the abortion pill that I took and when I took it, and asked me why I took it. And then she also shared her story with me, which made me more comfortable, letting me know that she once was in my shoes and that I wasn't alone. She then explained to me that if I was to go through with the process of reversing the abortion pill that I took, that they would, in the clinic, give me a shot of progesterone, basically flooding my system, counteracting what the abortion pill did, was strip my body. And that if this process was to take, there was a 68% chance of reversing it within the first 24 to 48 hours. So the first thing we did was take the ultrasound to make sure the baby was still alive, and he was. Then they gave me the shot of progesterone. Then she went on to explain over the weekend that I would take more progesterone pills to continue flooding my body with the progesterone hormones so that the baby can have a greater chance of living. And that due to having all the pills working in my system, the abortion pill and the progesterone, that I may be super drowsy and tired, so she suggested I take it easy over the weekend. She also gave me her cell phone number before I left, letting me know that if I was to bleed or anything due to taking the abortion pill, that I could call her, or if I had any questions or concerns, I can also reach out to her. And that stood out to me because I've never known a doctor to give you their personal cell phone number at an appointment. And so I definitely wasn't going to bother her over the weekend. But little to my surprise, she reached out to me and checked on me. The last step was to come back Monday and to see if the baby was still alive. That weekend was a little rough. I was drowsy and I didn't feel well, so I just laid around. Monday's follow-up came and the baby was still alive. So the journey to birth, at about 2 months, I found an OBGYN and I explained to him what I had went through. I also told him that I was taking progesterone, and he told me that I didn't need to continue taking that. But since Angelina helped me save the baby, I decided to listen to her with the progesterone and him with everything else. A part of me was worried that all the pills that I had took would have an adverse effect on the baby. But I decided to, when worry and doubt crept into my mind, to just speak life, counteracting those negative thoughts. My mentor sent me a scripture that kept me going. Jeremiah 1:5, which read, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you a prophet to the nations." A part of me didn't know if I was making the right decision either, because it was a little too much for my boyfriend to digest. So now my biggest fear had come true, and I was on this journey alone. And I felt with COVID and everything that I was more alone than ever, because I didn't have anyone that I can confide in and talk to, because I didn't want to feel condemnation for my choices. Then there was an ultrasound, and it showed an abnormality found in kids with Down syndrome, which comes from the side effect of taking the abortion pill. And I just decided to pray harder than I had ever prayed before. I didn't tell anyone about it, and I just decided to have faith and order the extra testing to confirm the diagnosis or not. After a few days, the test results came back, and it was clear there was no Down syndrome. The following months weren't easy, mentally or emotionally. Something I did to stay balanced was read the Bible, read self-help books, speak positive affirmations over my baby and my family, and listen to Joel Osteen, Pastor Paula, and Joyce Myers daily to keep me going. I even sought out therapy to help me stay mentally stable so that my daughter wasn't affected by the choices that I made. I learned long ago that our words have power, so I was determined to control my thoughts and do whatever it took. I must give God all the glory for being my strength through this time. And after a long labor, Aiden was born September 4th at 7:48, completely healthy and handsome, just perfect. He went full term. The medications I took didn't have any effect on his life, thank God. If it wasn't for Angelina and the abortion hotline and the staff of Sancta Familia, Dr. Delgado for even investigating or researching the abortion reversal, Aiden wouldn't be here today. Here he is. One of the reasons that I initially chose life, I chose to discontinue his life, because it was for the fear of being alone. But I'm proud that I chose to have faith, because one, Aiden wouldn't be here today. God provided for me more support than one person could even supply. From Natalia standing by my side and assisting me through the 2-day labor process, to Carolyn and her family taking my daughter in and getting her back and forth to school while I was in the hospital. And for all my friends and family that showered me with gifts and food as I was on bed rest. To my little sister and brother catering to me and my every needs as I healed. As I write this, I'm reminded more than ever to walk by faith and not by sight. And I choose to be vulnerable and expose my private struggle to let you know that you're not alone. And I hope that by sharing this story that it will assist in saving another life, just as it did Aiden's. I always knew that God would use me to inspire many women one day, but I never knew that it would be through overcoming the hardest tests that I've had to overcome in my life, and then being vulnerable and sharing it with the world. But you too can do your part in helping save a life by sharing this message. For that woman who doesn't know that the abortion pill reversal is out there, and she chose out of fear to have an abortion, but then like me immediately felt regret and wanted to change her decision. Abortion is allowed in all 50 states, and 30 to 40% of them choose to have the chemical abortion. And I'm not condemning any woman for their right to choose. I am, however, sharing this message to help someone. Another way that you can help is by sponsoring a woman and giving to Sancta Familia Medical Clinic. The reason why they didn't mention funds was because someone like you donated so that my baby could have a chance at life. And if I wasn't able to come up with the funds, I didn't have to choose between money and my child. Every little bit helps. Whether you share or donate, thank you for listening to my story.